But if one observes the overall slant in the pressure of the writing, there's a suggestion of acute narcissism, a complete lack of empathy.
That you're having a paranoid episode triggered by acute neurochemical trauma?
Hey there, and welcome to TalkWord. This is the show where we get to dive deep into the meaning, origin, and everyday use of English words. Today, we're tackling a word that is incredibly useful and, you'll see, surprisingly versatile.
All right, let's kick things off with a little bit of a puzzle. What on earth could a triangle, a sudden sharp pain, and a brilliant idea possibly have in common? I mean, they seem totally unrelated, right? But believe it or not, they're all connected by one single powerful English word.
And that word is acute. So for the next few minutes, we're going to unravel how this one little word can describe so many different things. And by the end, you're going to feel super confident understanding and using it. Ready? Let's do this.
Okay, so with any word, to really get it, you've got to go back to its roots. The whole secret to the word acute is hiding in its ancient past, specifically in Latin.
Yep, acute comes straight from the Latin word acutus, which means sharpened or pointed. I want you to picture a freshly sharpened pencil, or maybe the pointy end of a spear. That's the original, physical idea that this word was built on. So here's the big takeaway, right here. If you can just remember this one simple concept, sharpness, you've basically got the master key to unlock every single meaning of the word acute in English. We're going to use this key for the rest of our journey today.
Let's start with the most direct, most literal translation of that Latin root. Where do we see sharpness in a really physical way? Well, we see it in geometry. So in geometry class, an acute angle is just a sharp angle. It's an angle that's smaller and more pointed than a 90-degree right angle. You can literally see the sharpness. It's just a brilliant illustration of the word's origin in the most visual way you can imagine.
All right, so we've got the literal meaning down, but honestly, this is where it gets really cool. It's how this idea of sharpness kind of explodes metaphorically to describe things we can't even see, like our senses and our feelings. You know, we talk about someone having acute hearing or an acute sense of smell. What we mean is that their senses are highly developed, they're sharp. And it's the exact same for intelligence. An acute mind is a sharp, quick, perceptive mind. It's that ability to notice tiny details that other people might just miss.
And this metaphor just keeps going. It extends to our feelings and sensations too. A pain isn't just a pain, it can be an acute pain, meaning it's sharp, it's severe. You can also feel acute anxiety or acute embarrassment. In all those cases, acute just means that feeling is really intense and it hits you all of a sudden.
And isn't that just fascinating? The very same word, acute, all powered by that one core idea of sharpness, can describe both a brilliant observation someone makes and a sudden, terrible headache. It's such a great example of how powerful metaphors are in our language.
Okay, so we get the why behind the word. Now let's get practical and talk about the how. Knowing when and how to use acute the right way is what it's all about. So let's look at some common pairs and contexts to make it totally clear.
Now this is a big one that clears up a lot of confusion, especially in medicine. An acute illness, something like the flu, it comes on suddenly and the symptoms are severe, but it's usually over pretty quickly. The opposite of that is a chronic illness, which develops slowly and just sticks around for a long time. They can both be serious, but their timing is completely different.
And hey, let's jump back to geometry for a sec. The opposite of an acute, or sharp angle, is an obtuse angle. And get this, the word obtuse actually comes from a Latin word that means blunt or dull. So you've got sharp versus blunt. How perfect is that?
So let's put it all together now. You could say, the building had an acute triangular roof. Or for senses, dogs have an acute sense of hearing. For a serious situation, the country faced an acute shortage of water. And for feelings, he felt an acute sense of embarrassment. You see how that idea of sharpness or intensity just fits perfectly into every single one?
So if you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this. From a pointed angle in a triangle to a pointed severe pain, the word acute always carries that core feeling of sharpness and intensity.
And that gets me thinking, and I want to pose this question to you. Now that you see how this whole sharpness idea works for the word acute, what other English words can you think of that use that exact same concept, either literally or as a metaphor? Give it some thought.
I really hope this explainer has, well, sharpened your understanding of acute. And hey, if you had fun with this deep dive, your word journey does not have to stop here.
With the TalkWord mobile app, you can explore thousands of other amazing word stories. You can even create your own English word explanation podcasts. And you get to hear them voiced by our 2 friendly hosts. It's an absolutely fantastic way to build up your vocabulary. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on TalkWord.
He's still suffering the effects of acute dehydration.
It's acute renal failure caused by sweat poisoning.
Temporary insanity brought on by acute panic distress syndrome.